about you, but there are times in my life, and I'm sure that's true for you, times in your life, where something happens that just really cannot be explained. Sometimes, no matter how much you want order and peace, chaos happens. And that certainly is true with our younger families, with small children, like at a table or dinner. Sometimes you want things to go well around the table with your young kids, or maybe you've got the grandkids over, and chaos just takes place. And it really can't be explained why that has happened. Let me read to you what Robert Kagan has to say about sometimes chaos taking place with his children around the dinner table. After grace, the table becomes a frenzy of noise and movement. Sometimes it gets so loud I have to yell, quiet. It's a pretty negative approach, but it works. In the shuffling stillness, a hint of order comes again. I quote him St. Paul on the subject of pots, talking back to the potter, and I remind them that we are a civilized group of family members, not a mob, and that manners are to be expected. Then the youngest knocks over a glass of milk. Down it races like a flood across land. I jump away from the table, but over the edge it pours and I'm hit. Right trouser leg below the knee. It's the third time she spilled her milk this week. She's been doing this for 3 years now, and she's become rather creative in how she spills her milk. She spills her milk with her backhand, forearm, sidearm, elbow, and fist. She's upset glasses with her head, her feet, her shoulders, her knees, her rump, her belly, and even in the middle of her back. Sometimes she's spilled on thick tablecloths, which become like a white swamp that spreads ominously towards all. Sometimes she's spilled on plastic tablecloths for a high-velocity attack. I can only think of one successful escape from her spilled beverage, and then I nearly broke the chair to get away. She's spilled before, during, and after meals by commission and omission, with enough broken glass to rival the divine scattering. Chaos. Sometimes it just happens at the dinner table. But we're aware of that happening in all areas of life. Amen?
Amen.
I mean, one person abuses their body, they drink, they smoke, they carouse, they don't eat the right things, and they live to be 94 years old. And then someone else tries meticulously to take care of himself, and they exercise, and they eat the right food, and they take vitamins, and they get enough sleep, but they only live to be 60. Why is that? Things happen that you just can't explain. 2 children are brought up in the same family, given the same love, same affirmation, given the same educational experiences, the same life experiences, yet one ends up in prison and the other ends up to be a teacher. Why is that? Things happen in life. Chaos and chance just kind of filters into our life, and we try and prevent that. I mean, we build our walls and try and keep our environment nice and neat and orderly, but sometimes chance and chaos kind of seeps underneath our walls, bringing with it turmoil or sometimes destruction. And our faith can't explain why that happens. Our position in life doesn't protect us. Our technology can't keep these things from happening. Things just happen beyond our control. And when that happens, when we find ourselves in that situation, all we can do is do our very best to keep the faith and then leave the rest up to God. And in a sense, that's really the underlying message parable that Jesus tells about sowing seeds. Jesus says a farmer went out to sow his seeds. Now, in those days, there were two real ways to sow seeds. One was the farmer would take the bag of seeds and reach in and just kind of scatter them as he walked along the path, which was many times called the wayside, cultivated fields. And the other way to sow seeds was you took the bag of seeds, a big bag of seeds, and you put it on the back of a mule or an oxen, and then you punched holes in the bottom of the ends of the bag, and the seeds would scatter as the oxen walked. Both ways, waste was inevitable. Some seeds would fall on the hard paths between the cultivated fields. And because the seeds fell in those paths, they were vulnerable to the birds of the air who would come and just eat them up. And then other seeds would fall on the uncultivated land between the fields. And there, the seeds would take root, but because the bedrock was so close to the surface of the soil, the roots couldn't penetrate. And so in time, those would wither. And some seeds fall on good soil, where they blossom and grow to this place. Chance, disorder, it's a part of the parable. And Jesus wants us to see that and recognize that. Some say that Jesus tells this parable to try and explain to his disciples why he, being the Son of God, is not able to convert everyone that hears him preach. It's interesting to note that Jesus tells this parable on the heels of a very nasty confrontation between the Pharisaic leaders and some of the scribes with Jesus. Jesus did not convert everyone who heard him preach. In fact, he converted fewer people than the large number of people that heard him preach. And so maybe he tells this parable to explain to his disciples that you find yourself sowing seeds in an environment of change. Some people will hear the word, the seed, and it will take root, and then many will not. You sow the seeds, you do your best, you keep the faith. But recognize you're never going to be 100% successful. You'll have good days out in the field and bad days out in the field. And there will be some who will like you, and there will be some who won't. Some days you take a step forward, some days you take a step backward. There's this element of chance that we operate in. And so all we can do in the midst of this element of chance is to sow the seeds, do the best that we can, keep our faith, and then take a step back and leave the rest up to God. There is a liberating message in this parable, isn't there? I think so. There's a liberating message here for those students and youth who work so hard and they practice, but they don't make the team, or they don't make the cast or the chorus. There's a liberating word here for that person who works and meets expectations and does more than what's expected, but still finds themselves downsized out of a job. There's a liberating word here for the person who works to try and save that marriage or to try and save that friendship. But the marriage and the friendship still ends. We find ourselves in a sea of chance. And Jesus is saying that to his disciples. He's saying that to us. And he's saying, you need to still sow the seeds. You need to do the best that you can. You need to work hard and keep the faith, but recognize only some of your seeds will take root. Much will fall away because of chance. there's a liberating message in this parable, and it's a message that speaks. It speaks to parents, especially parents who kind of wonder, why did that one child turn out the way he or she did? As a parent, you know you gave him the best shot. You know you gave him love and affirmation and forgiveness, and you gave him all kinds of experiences, but yet they grew up and things didn't turn out for them the way you thought they would. Their life takes a 90-degree turn, and they end up in trouble and turmoil. And maybe they don't even come home and see you anymore as a parent. And sometimes as parents, we knock ourselves over the head and wonder, what did I do wrong? Well, maybe you didn't do anything. You sowed your seeds. You did the best that you could. But there's this element chance that we work with. You're not in control. You're in control of what you do, but you're not in control of the results. So do your best. There's also a liberating message here for congregations and for pastors who are retiring. And the message is this: do your best as a congregation. Do your best to support your new pastor. Do your best in retirement. Do your best to take down all those challenges that might come in retirement. But recognize there are intangibles that come into play. Intangibles that come into play. I hope the very best for this congregation. I hope the very best for Bonnie and me in retirement. But all we're in control of is basically ourselves. And so we just do our best. We do our best. We sow the seed. And then we leave the rest up to God. Eric Butterworth has a wonderful quote that I want to share with you. This quote appears in his book, The Destiny of Man. And this is what he says: when bad things happen, recognize it's not the person or the situation that stands before you, but your reaction to it. Things may happen around you, things may happen to you, but the only things you can really count on are the things that happen in you. We can't always control what happens around us, but we can control how we think, how we feel, and what we do. I think the parable is kind of saying something like that. You are a sower of seeds. You sow the seeds. You do your best. But you recognize that there is a power greater than ourselves in this finite world, and that power is God. And ultimately, what will happen is up to God. So recognize it. Your attempts to make a living, your attempts to raise your children, your attempts to influence your grandchildren, your attempts to empower the local church, all is done in a culture of chance. So all you can do is do your best. Sow the seeds. Keep the faith. For when you've done your very best, then there's nothing left to do but to trust in God. Let's bow forward and pray.